This is Leisha Holmes, and I'm your host on the Recruiters Recruitment podcast, brought to you by Hoxo Media. And I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined today by a familiar face to those who attend the True events hosted by Martin Dangerfield. This is Theo Smith, and he's got quite an interesting profile. So Theo is a VP Customer Acquisition at Zinc Work, but he's also a neurodiversity evangelist, which includes hosting his own podcast, which is Neurodiversity, Eliminating Kryptonite and Enabling Superheroes, which is obviously something I'm very passionate about. Welcome to you today, Theo. How are you?
Thank you. Really good. So yeah, that's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? I didn't think about that. It was originally Neurodiversity at Work, but I wanted to kind of have something that kind of described what the podcast was about, rather than at work's a bit boring, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll keep it nice and simple for those who want to know what neurodiversity actually means. So simplify it for us. What are we actually going to be talking about today?
So neurodiversity, I guess the concept that was brought about, one of the people who brought it about, Judy Singer, the idea, I believe, was that neurodiversity is like biodiversity. So that it's kind of natural variations in kind of human evolution, right? So that there's so many people who are ADHD or dyslexic or autistic or dyscalculia or dyspraxia or we could go on, right? But there's so many of these people that it can't be by accident. It's not a disability because evolution would have kind of got rid of these variations. The reality is that these variations can be really, really powerful. And I've had somebody just call me out recently who is neurodiverse around using superheroes as a way to describe those who are neurodiverse, neurodifferent, neurodivergent, depending on the terminology you'd like to use. But actually, I've seen it. High Contrast, a leading drum bass producer, has synesthesia. He sees sound as colour. And for some people, that can be debilitating, right? They hear these sounds and these colours, they just blind them, right? So you think, oh, that's awful. Well, no, because High Contrast, Lincoln Barrett, was up for awards or whatever it is, Emmy or whatever they are. But he's played at the Olympics. He's a leading person in his field, and it's these colours that help him know he's creating the right sounds. Wow. So you're like, you tell me that's not a superhuman power, right? Like, you put that into context of a magazine, then it is. But not everybody's like that. So basically, neurodiversity is about everybody. It's about the variations in human brain, just like the thumbprint. And what it is it's a positive around human variations. And our differences empower us to be able to do incredible things. Absolutely. So it doesn't have to be lasers from the eyes. It could just be that we can do something in a really focused way much better than other people. And that could be in the work context, it could be at home, it could be anywhere.
Absolutely. And creating an advantageous strategy to having people that have got different strengths, like you say. The world would be a very boring place if we're all the same. That's what I always think. So from an employment perspective, because let's keep it focused around that, because that's our audience, although I think this applies to most walks of life. What's the current state of play? What would you say the sort of culture is when it comes to an inclusivity piece, when it comes to interviewing people and hiring people that are not one way or another?
So even though this concept's fairly new in the work context, it's really taken off over the last 3 years. This last 6-12 months, it's exploded. I mean, organisations are really taking on board. Now, if we think about it in the context of somebody who's autistic or ADHD or dyslexic, often these individuals have spiky profiles. And what we mean by that is, like, many people can have spiky profiles, but specifically this group of people have spiky profiles where their cognitive abilities, where there's a lot of people, and your IQ is an example, not that we necessarily buy into that as a concept anymore, some of us, but you've got your IQ. Lots of people may stay quite close to that line of their IQ level, right, in their cognitive abilities. Well, what you found now is some people, ADHD, autistic, they can have really spiky profiles. So they can be absolutely incredible in one cognitive skill, but really awful in others. So like me as an example, if you based your thoughts around me as an individual, as an employee, around my organizational skills, right, I would fail significantly. So you'd go, Theo's an idiot. Like, he keeps not turning up to places. He can't organise himself. He's an absolute waste of space. You wouldn't want to pay him a dime. But the reality is, if you're only focusing on that skill, then yes, I am an idiot. I'm not going to do very well. However, if you look more broadly across those other cognitive skills, you'll see that I've got a spiky profile. In some areas, I outperform others significantly. Now, the challenge we've got for organisations is they don't often assess people based on their spiky profiles, where they're absolutely incredible. They base it across kind of a general overview. So we want somebody who's organised. We want somebody who deals well with people. We want somebody who holds eye contact, who can shake a hand. We want somebody who's kind of quite good on all these different cognitive skills. Well, you know, 50%, 60% of the population may get away with that. Yeah. You've got 20, 30, 40% of the population. It's just not happening. But does that mean we shouldn't employ them? Of course it doesn't. Because what we're missing out on is we're missing out on these people that could come in and plug gaps. So, you know, the three of the leading athletes of all time are ADHD. You've got Simone Biles, you've got Usain Bolt, and you've got the swimmer, whatever his name is. You've got three of the most elite athletes of all time, and they're ADHD. Right? Right. That says something, right? Now, if you've got them, you've got Usain Bolt and Biles and the big swimmer. Sorry,
Duncan Goodhue.
No,
no.
Maybe as well. Who knows? But you get these people and said, listen, right, we're going to focus on maths. We're going to spend most days focusing on maths, right? You're not going to go out on the track. You're not going to go in the pool. We're going to make you focus on maths. That is lost time, right, at making them some of the most incredible sports people in the world. Right, put that into the context of work environment, or even the school environment where all of this is beginning. We're wasting huge amounts of time forcing kids and forcing employees to live within their kryptonite. Absolutely. Right? We're going, go live with that stuff you really hate and find really difficult, and we're going to judge you on it, and we're going to assess you on it, and we're going to show you next to someone else and go, they're brilliant at that, and you're rubbish. How do you feel about
it? Benchmark you against someone where that is their flow, and this is not your flow at all. If you think about it, it's so simple but so preposterous, isn't it?
Exactly. So, you know, and this is what we need to start to think about as organizations. You need to be really tough with yourself as a recruiter, as a hiring manager. HR departments need to pull their finger out. I've been a part of them, so that I'm included in that, right? We're going to challenge the status quo. Absolutely. And we're going to challenge a hiring manager to go, listen, right, you've got 4 skills you need to do this job. If you've got somebody who could do 2 of them, and you've got somebody over there who can do the other 2, and they can blow it out of the water, right? You've got 2 people who are outperforming in these areas. You build a team that can then cover for that, right? Because you will have people that can plug in and support this side or that side. And when we've got teams that are quite flat, what we miss out on is the team might be performing quite well. So nobody's questioning that team. But imagine what they could achieve if somebody exploded through in a single line area. Absolutely. And started to really challenge. If we're thinking around science, we're thinking around solving COVID, we're thinking around sports, we're thinking around, you know, every facet of society and work.
Yeah.
Exactly. You've got to have somebody who smashes through that glass ceiling and goes, no, I'm gonna challenge it. And the people get behind them and go, we're gonna hold you up. We're gonna hold you up because you're gonna solve problems we couldn't even conceive were possible to solve. We weren't even dealing with them because in our little bubble here, we were all quite happy, doing quite well. And the company were happy with us doing quite well until this was disrupted. And often it happens by accident. What we want now is for it to happen by design.
By design. You use the word disruptive there because actually what it is potentially going to do is not only be disruptive to employers, but actually to our whole education system. because I've thought for many years, you know, I can see the total contrast in my two daughters, for example. I know that what my natural, if you were to go and say to me, right, go and sit there and have a load of spreadsheets and work out the activity for this team, and, you know, go and set all their KPIs, or actually go and come up with some great creative ideas on sort of blogs and podcasts and how to, you know, enhance our talent attraction strategy. Which side of the room do you think I'm going to go to? I mean, so we all know what our strengths are. And what I love about this topic is that, yes, it's innovative, but actually it will totally transform the human journey. Because why on earth are we trying to pigeonhole people and benchmark when every human being's different?
Absolutely. And that's why neurodiversity is an incredible concept, because what we're getting to is, this isn't about, you know, me who's ADHD and dyslexic, right? It is, okay, yeah. But it's about everyone, because if we can get this right, a team that, and you know, there's all the evidence that more diverse teams outperform others, right? But it's still complicated, because what happens is, go, right, we want a more diverse team. We're going to have a black person. We're going to have somebody who's Catholic. We're going to have a woman. We're going to have. Really, what we're trying to achieve is somebody who's going to challenge the status quo. Somebody who's going to make that team think differently, right? So we're not talking about gender. We're not talking about race. We're talking about somebody's neurological makeup. And yes, their race, their gender plays a part in that, part of the way they think. If they're of a religious mindset and they go to church every Sunday, they will have a particular way of thinking, of communicating and engaging. Yeah. But they could be somebody who's autistic, who's a churchgoer. They could be somebody who's highly entrepreneurial and ADHD and whatever, and very confident, engaging with people and talk, that go to church. Or they may not be religious at all. Do you see, it becomes quite complex. But if we think about it, that every single human being has their own individual brain, like a thumbprint, and we're going to treat them as human beings, and we're not going to try and have this broad brush and these, you know, spikes in diversity. Just broadly, we need to get people who think differently into our teams.
And look, and you know, I'm all for the hybrid, because that's what we're talking about here. It's about in encouraging a mindset of, you know, placing people into their hybrid role, because that's where you will be most productive. It's where you'll be most innovative. It's where you'll be happiest. And I'm a huge believer in this. If you're happy and content in doing your job, you will thrive in it. But let's take it back a step then. So for people who have got scalable businesses, how on earth are they supposed to hire in this way? Because this is more labor intensive, isn't it? This is going to take more time to establish what that mindset is and how those people's brains work.
So you've got a couple of interesting things happening at the moment. You've got organizations, large organizations like IBM or Microsoft or a variety of SAP, right? What they're doing is they're building autism programs. So they've huge organizations, they've got communities of people who are autistic, as an example, who are starting to get vocal within the organization in a really positive, engaging way. And then an autism program gets built, as an example, and they start to hire people that way, and they learn from it and go, oh, okay, how can we scale that, right? That's one element, right? Well, that's all good and well, but not many organizations that have that scale and technology driven. You've then got, what I see is happening is a lot of small tech companies now, HR technology, a wide variety of other technology companies, they're accidentally becoming heavily weighted to being quite neurodiverse. Okay. Not by design, by accident, but by design of the fact of the types of jobs they've got. So if you're a technology firm and you've got developers and testers who may be able to just go into their bubble for the day, they may be able to work from home because it's a remote company, or, you know, like smart recruiters, they just go, hey, we're just going to go remote because we've got people all over the world already. So, and there's other organizations that are doing that now. They've just created this environment and this opportunity for people who otherwise couldn't get into work, couldn't access work, didn't feel they fitted in work. All of a sudden they do. So we've got this happening. And I think, so some companies don't need to think about it too much, as in, you don't need to go in and design all these crazy processes. What you need to do is you need to go into work on Monday morning and go, do we really know our people, right? We think we know them,
Yeah.
We treat them well. They generally like being here. But if we really talk to them, and this is when we start to talk about bringing your whole self to work and that stuff, do we really get, and we don't have to force them to speak about who they are, but some people will be willing to, right? Do we know if we have anybody who is autistic? Yes, you do. But do we know? Can we engage our community and say, we want to make a difference. We want to know who works here. We want to encourage more people with a similar mindset who are going to break boundaries and help us achieve wonderful things. But we need our current employees to help us do it.
Yeah.
So we need to open up the conversation, but we're going to do it in a safe way. Now, that may be through speaking to external organizations. Auto Trader, Christos Tsaprounis, great example. He worked with National Autistic Society, NAS, and got them in to advise and to support. You may want to get somebody like Professor Amanda Kirby and her team, do it profile. Or you may just literally want to start yourself,
right.
Which is, write a blog about it internally. You know, I could do it because it's my community, so to speak, and I can talk about my experiences. Is there somebody who's willing to do that? But we have to protect them as well. Don't make them the only go-to person. No. The only person who is ADHD in the organisation. I mean, that's not necessarily a positive thing either, because you put a lot of pressure on that individual.
You want to create champions who are happy to advocate it, but equally, like you say, protective space for them.
Absolutely. And if I've been at events recently where, there are retail companies that do a lot of brilliant work around engaging with communities, talking to them, great with the employer brand and everything else. But there are people delivering that who are employees, and we've got to protect them as well. Yeah, so I'd say there's things that we can do that are simple, but we also got to think about the well-being of those individuals. Because what you tend to find, if you're a woman, as an example, and you're autistic, chances are you may have been missed.
Yeah.
And what tends to happen is misdiagnosed. So you're missed as being autistic.
Yeah.
You then may be sent to your GP by your mum or your dad because they're worried about you. You might be self-harming. You might have other challenges. You might be bullied. You might not, all different stuff that could be going on that could impact your mental health and well-being. You get sent to the GP because don't know what to do. Parents don't know. Yeah. GP says, "Oh, you're depressed. Here's some drugs. That'll sort you out," right? GP is not necessarily doing the wrong thing. GP has the information and knowledge in front of them. Yeah. That person then spends 3 years on antidepressants, believing that is what's the challenge that they're facing in life. No, they just need to understand they're autistic, right? And some of the emotional challenges, or they may be ADHD, or some of that is attributed to being autistic. And the fact that society's not set up in a way to help them, making them feel like they don't fit in, which of course that's going to make you feel like, not very good.
Not great.
Yeah, exactly. So, you've got all these different types of challenges that can make it difficult for people as they try and, access the workplace. And then the workplace trying to unpick that and allow these people to come in.
And still be productive and still do the sort of intention of what the business, whatever that business looks like. And obviously for our community, it's recruitment business owners. So, so bearing that in mind, if that's our listener space, what can recruitment companies do to be more inclusive to neurodiversity?
So I imagine if I think of my days in a recruitment agency, definitely in my first recruitment agency, one of the team was autistic and one of the team was ADHD. As well as me, and we were only a team of about 7. So, no, because if you think around what happens is you've got recruitment. Well, you may have recruitment in technology. So you may have people who go into recruitment in technology because they have an interest in technology.
Yeah.
You see, so you're already having different mindsets, finding where they may potentially fit in.
Yeah.
All right. So then you've got people who are dyslexic or ADHD can be quite good at sales or gift of the gab.
Yep.
So they tend to accidentally find themselves, in recruitment companies because they'll talk a bit and, that kind of fits in with what you need to do. Get on the phone in the old days. I don't know what it's like now as much, but
somebody's doing that.
It's still a lot of getting on the phone. Yeah, I imagine so. And building relationships with candidates. So what I would say to recruitment companies and the owners, again, you've probably got a more diverse employees than you perhaps think. And actually, what you may be doing is putting undue pressure on those employees, whether sales targets or whatever, that don't actually engage, don't connect with them, don't engage them, and don't motivate them. So that's where you see recruiters all the time, really good in this company, absolutely die a death in this company. And they think the recruiters are, oh, well, I'll just go over there and I'll take my customers. And it's the way they're treated, it's the way they're motivated, it's the way they're managed. And that comes down to your neurological makeup. I'm not motivated by money. That doesn't mean I don't like money. I'm motivated by opportunity to feel good about the stuff I'm doing. And I need to be rewarded through this. Where people have tried to tell me that my job's at risk, or that I need to hit X amount this month, or that's at risk, or I'm zoned out. I'm not turning up tomorrow, because the psychological contract between me and you has just been broken, and it's not going to be fixed. Now, some recruitment directors, they work on that kind of hard, tough, do it, we've got to make it, ring the bell. And there'll be a proportion of people that works for, and there'll be a proportion of people who it really doesn't.
It's the opposite effect, isn't it, really? And I think that it's I think diversity and inclusion is definitely, I can see that that's becoming, more commonplace, certainly in the recruitment industry, which is obviously very welcome. And do you think that this will become part of the remit of whether that's the D&I specialist or an HR professional? Will this be an area that they need to be fully conversant in and be able to analyse and address this for their existing people and also for future hires as well?
So, yes, in short, there's been some research done by the recruitment events company, the ALA 100, around where in-house recruitment get their recruiters from, and it's agency recruitment, right? Something like 60-70%, right? So that's feeding it. But then you look at agency recruitment, and it's like white male, right? Predominantly, so then you're going, hang on a minute. So the recruitment, these recruitment companies are predominantly white male, with some variation, but generally predominantly white male. That's feeding the in-house community. So that means 60-70% of that is going to be white male. And you're thinking, well, what's going on here? So the reason why I mention this is because what agencies should be thinking about now is we need to represent the organizations that we want to supply, right? And we also need to represent our local communities. Yes. If you're in Manchester, what is your makeup? What's the demographic makeup? It's diverse, right? If you as a recruitment company are not diverse, what are you doing? Yeah. And the same with London and other areas. You need to be better representing the people of your community and the organisations that you're supplying to. And if anything, they should be pushing the boundaries. So by employing more diverse people from a more diverse background, whether that's ethnicity, gender, neurological makeup, they, just by doing that, are feeding the in-house teams of the future with more diverse candidates. But they are also showing the companies they're working for, we believe in this.
We're part of your community. We're not just saying it, we really are part of your community.
Look at us.
Strategy.
And there's not enough of them. So any recruitment leader there running a business now, you are doing something that is outside of the norm.
Yeah.
Do it. Because you're leading the way. Just think about the makeup of your teams. And you did say something around it being harder. Yes, it is harder, because what you may find is there are less people who are neurologically diverse or from ethnic minority backgrounds, because we've not done this. So you are going to struggle. You are going to have to convince somebody from an ethnic background to come into a team where they see no representation of themselves. You are going to have to show them that you mean business and that you want to bring them in for the right reasons and you want to make change. So yes, you are going to put some effort into that, and I hope you want to do that. The other element of that is, yes, it's more difficult to manage people who come with their own minds, who are going to challenge the status quo, who aren't going to sit at that table and go, yes, sir, no, sir, you're correct, sir, I agree, everybody's saying the same. They're going to come in and they're going to disrupt. They're going to challenge the status quo, but your organization is going to be all the better for it.
Yeah,
because you're going to be able to make a difference and a change at this point in history where the doors have been well and truly blown off.
They have been blown off, haven't they? I absolutely agree with you. And sort of one final question for you. If the listener is actually somebody who is sat there and they're neurodiverse, whether it's autism, ADHD, dyslexia, and they're feeling a little bit, well, I'm not really sure what to do next, what would the one piece of advice be to them?
So I would reach out to, they did a community, so people who are neurodiverse, you can research on LinkedIn, just put in neurodiversity, put in dyslexia, ADHD, see who's talking about it, see what groups they're a member of, see who's liking and sharing, see if there's other people who might be within recruitment. And, you know, a safe bet for you might be to reach out to people who are in-house. If you really are concerned around your health and well-being and who you work for, because you might be concerned, contact somebody and they go, oh no, I think it's a load of rubbish. They're within your community. So it might just make sense just to step outside of that slightly, build some level of confidence around what you can and can't do, and then build from there. Now, you may well know that your boss or your manager might have previously shared that they suspect that one of their kids might be neurodiverse. Now, there's an easy route in, right? Because you can go, oh, well, I think I might be. I've had people come up to me in organizations that I've worked in, and because I'm an advocate and I speak about it, they've whispered in my ear, I'm dyslexic, but I'm not telling anybody. I'm not going to. You know, this is my thing, but I'm really pleased you talk about it because I can just listen to that.
Is there such a stigma?
Well, so in this instance, yes, cultural stigma. So if you are from a particular ethnic background, for example, and there's a view that you should become a doctor, a dentist or whatever, and you go on and do a different role, there may be stigma around that alone. Then add to it something that may still not be appreciated, understood. Or respected as part of that community. So there's all these layers. So it's not just the challenge in work, it's the challenge at home or within your family or friendship group around what they might think. And that person might not be ready to change the mindset of their family and friends. And it's enough that they realized something about themselves that empowers them and that gives them energy to, you know, be proud of themselves, because I think that's be proud of what you do.
Find out who you are. That's definitely the case. And obviously they can always listen to your podcast, which we'll make sure the links are on there. And a little plug, if you like, for your book that's coming out. Do we have a date?
Yeah. So I'm writing this with Amanda Kirby and Kogan Page are publishing it. It's been over a year in the making. And I got there's a couple of people I'll be thanking as part of the book who got me to go and write this. But basically, it's kind of put your money where your mouth is type of thing. If you talk about it so much, go and bloody write something about it. Because there was nothing out there that we felt. So the book, Neurodiversity at Work, really is just kind of giving organizations, individuals, the opportunity to have it all in one place. The research, the evidence, what organizations are doing. So hopefully in the next few months it will be out. We're still finishing things off now, but you can order it from Amazon, Waterstones, W.H. Smith.
Well, we'll make sure that link is on all the channels when we share this broadcast, because I think it's really important, and I think it's a topic that touches absolutely everybody's life. We all know somebody that's classed as neurodiverse, and I am all for changing the mindset of people. So you've just been a delightful guest, as I knew you would be, because you're always an absolute joy to be with at the True event. So thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it, Theo.
No problem at all. Absolute pleasure.